Update time. Today we're working with the diff, right? The diff?
Yeah. The diff.
Okay. But before we even start that, let me tell you where we're catching up on. We finally went ahead and mounted up the. No, we did my transmission already.
Yeah. Did that.
We filled it up. We put the ATF in. Yes, ATF. Remember that? This one actually said ATF. My sticker said ATF. Apparently, there's some that do say MTF, but apparently they're rare. So, ATF. We filled it up. Torqued all the bolts, the cross beam that holds it up. Torqued the bolts to the drain and the fill plug holes. And then now we're gonna see if we finally lower this diff.
Right, so we're going to go ahead and lower it. I think you've undone most of the bolts. You took the axles out.
Yeah, all the axles have been out and zip tied up to the actual, axle, to the frame. They're kind of zip tied there, just hanging in there for now. And there's about 12, 6 on each side. So 12 those E36 bolts. So now we should have 3 bolts. The 2 that mount in the back with the bushing and the 1 in the front.
Correct. So I guess we're going to lower it onto, I think we have a creeper seat that kind of folds. So he came up with the idea of just trying to lower on there. So we'll probably lower it. If not, then we'll just use a hydraulic jack, pull it down, and then I guess we'll slide it out and then do the exact reversed order of whatever we do. So stick around. We're going to try.
All right, new diff is up. So this is our brand new 293 diff, gear ratio diff. I'm kind of already missing my 391 because even when I was bolting it in and I was spinning the shafts, the axle shafts around, I realize now the difference between the open and the LSD I took for granted for so many years. So I have a feeling this will be short-lived. But either way, it's up. It was actually pretty easy. The 3 bolts that we took out, we torqued them back into place. We opened up the drain and the fill plugs before we put them in, just so to make sure that we're not making too much adjustments in this little room that we have here to play with. So we're getting ready to fill it up now with our gear oil. And then once we're done with this, we're gonna go actually to the clutch and actually start reverse filling it up, and we'll show you that too. We actually found that out recently, and it seemed to be a pretty awesome method to do it. So we're gonna do it and try it, and hopefully it works for us as well. So stay tuned.
Okay, so we kind of left off. I wanted to show you how we're gonna put in the gear oil in our diff. We have our Mobile One diff fluid, I guess, oil, 7590 here, and we have this also, which is actually, this was originally my transmission fluid pump for my automatic when I need to refill. So we can actually, this is like $10 at your local auto parts or something like that. So just literally, we can unscrew that, stick this bottom part in, and you can literally guide this all the way up to the diff and pump it down until you can get all the fluid in. It's funny because I haven't seen how much, in terms of measurements, how much oil it'll take, but the idea is to fill it up until the screw starts leaking fluid. So that should be, it should be pretty simple. It's gonna be uncomfortable right under the car, but at least once you have these tools, it shouldn't be too bad. And then the next thing we're gonna do would be to once you're done with this, then we're gonna go show you how we're gonna do our slave cylinder. It's gonna be a little bit different, but we'll show you what we're gonna do with that.
All right, so update time. We went ahead and reverse bled the clutch slave cylinder. What we ended up using is we used something like this, a little oil, old school, old canister, and we actually put this little tip into the bleeder valve. So we opened it very slightly, and we actually fed up all the brake fluid up the slave cylinder all the way to the reservoir. I was kind of hesitant at first because I didn't think it was going to work, because we got to a point where the reservoir tank was actually filled, but we still didn't have any pressure, so I thought it was going to fail. What I realized is that I was kind of thinking of the old, the old level for the fluid that we had, so I always kind of kept it at that almost near the minimum mark. So I figured, now that it's powering now that it's filling up the clutch as well, I figured, oh, let me go up to closer to the maximum mark. And sure enough, once we almost reached the near maximum mark, the clutch pedal kind of felt perfect, and it's ready to go now. So reverse, actually reverse bleeding it definitely worked like a charm. Now we're moving on to the Guibo, and that's something that I really wanted to share with you guys because I didn't know about this until today. My little assistant here is gonna give me this. So here we have our old Guibo, our new Guibo, and I also ordered new bolts. What I noticed is when I put in the bolts through, and when you mount it on top of the bracket that's on the transmission, this side almost looks like it's gonna hit, and it actually does hit against the frame of the transmission. And what I realized was that first of all, I was about to bitch out my part supplier when I realized that the bolts actually have been superseded to a different part number. Well, that part number corresponds to the E36 M3, not the regular 328 and 325i. So they no longer make these bolts for the 325 and 328i. The difference was that these bolts are actually longer than the ones that the 325 and 328 had. So the ones that they sell you, these are actually 62 millimeters long. The old one used to be 58 millimeters. So there's a 4 millimeter difference there. So what I ended up doing is that I went up to Lowe's, got a hold of 2 millimeter spacers, and now we're shrinking the distance that we need there, and it gives you the perfect clearing that you're going to need to mount these up to on the transmission side. So keep that in mind. I really didn't even know about that. I thought I was sent the wrong numbers when I realized that these bolts have been superseded. So that's a new piece of information for me that I definitely wanted to share with you guys because, these are the weird things that we've encountered throughout all this. So keep that in mind, and we'll see I'll show you once the Guibo's up. Okay, so this is hopefully the moment of truth. After God knows it's been a lot of stuff, a lot of trials, through
A lot of injuries.
Where everything's put back together. The inside still isn't, but we're gonna see if we can fire this up and see if at least all the wiring that we did actually paid off. And I don't know. I'm telling you, I'm freaking out here. So we'll see. Let me see.
It'll be fine. If not, we'll try again.
And I don't even have the keys on me now.
Nope, thought I had them.
Nope. So, false alarm. Let me get the keys.
Double check.
Lights up. Okay. Okay. All right. Attempt 1. So now we have to charge up the battery a little bit. Try again. All right, attempt number 2. We developed a small leak in the fuel rail. We feel like we tightened it up, so hopefully we're gonna see if we can crank this again one more time. Attempt number 2.
a weird noise there. I don't know that noise. Maybe attempt 3 soon.
All right, so right around this time is when things start getting a little bit weird, if you will. We start having quite a few issues. If you notice, the first part, or actually the last try that we attempted to turn on the car, we had an issue with the battery. So it looks like, after the car having sat, for a few weeks up on jack stands, we've kind of failed to realize that, yeah, you need to charge the battery. So we went ahead and charged it a little bit. But beyond that, we were still having a few issues. So the next time that we attempted to fire it up, we started noticing that we had a little bit of a gas smell. Sure enough, we had a leak, from one of the fuel hoses. So we took care of that pretty promptly. Right after we took care of that, we sprung another leak from one of the injector O-rings. So that still put, a little bit of a damper on our progress. So we had to basically take that apart and make sure that we would reseat, each of those injectors, the way they should go in. So that was nice. We did notice that we need to order, one of those O-rings also to make kind of a better seal, so that way it doesn't happen in the future. Then after that, we still kind of noticed that the car wouldn't really crank or turn over the way that we wanted. We started hearing kind of a weird metallic noise. And after we, diagnosed that noise, we figured that it came out of somewhere either between the starter or either the actual flywheel. Unfortunately, we couldn't diagnose it. We took out the starter. We actually did it off camera. We rebuilt the starter and then put it back unsuccessfully, still experiencing the same noise, and decided, against continuing troubleshooting that way. So we took it apart. So we ended up taking the drive shaft apart. We took the basically the exhaust, brought down the transmission again, and then proceeded to swap out the flywheel from the old automatic transmission, and trying to get it to turn a little bit better. And sure enough, we got it to fire up. And then after that, decided to just basically replace the flywheel again, and you can probably see it in the video where it's actually fully running and spinning again.
There you go, properly spinning flywheel. Yeah.
So it looks like it might have been, one of the, there's like a little on the flywheel itself, there's like a little sort of an alignment pin, if you will. And it looks like that probably wasn't set correctly, even though we torqued everything properly. We probably should have made sure that that thing would spin, pretty freely without any obstructions or anything like that. Luckily, there's no damage to anything down there. So after we attempted, to fire up the car and it turned on and it was spinning correctly, we decided, hey, it's time to go ahead and put it all back together. So as soon as we put everything back together, we attempted to fire it up. It sounded like everything was good until we tested the reverse lights.
All right.
So cross
The
my fingers
moment of
for the
truth.
10th time. Let's see.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice and quiet. Success.
I would love to say build complete, but not really.
Not yet. Wait,
Yeah.
test drive's not done. So, all right. There you go.
So here's a question: can I put in the clutch?
Fork?
Can I press the clutch in? We don't need to bleed it again, do we?
Oh, I mean everything's good. You never lost any fluid, right?
No.
because I want to see if, yeah, because I just unhooked it from the.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're good.
So can you check to see if the reverse lights are working?
Yeah, no problem. We're good.
And then the actual slave cylinder decided to grenade itself. So after we figured we had a method of basically fishing out all those parts, because you truly do not want to drive around with any like broken components or anything like that. So we had a choice to make. Either we take it apart, and basically do the same process over again and remove all those parts in there, or we use a series of magnets to pull out all the broken pieces until we fish everything that we think basically came out of that slave cylinder. So it looks like the way that the slave cylinder goes in, there's like two bolts that have to line up, and then the pin in the middle actually sits where the shift fork is at. And it was, I guess, off center, or basically when we put it in initially, I don't think we sat it right in the middle or the center where that shift fork's supposed to go. So as soon as Javier went out and pressed on that clutch a couple of times, or one too many times, it just basically slid, and that whole pin just went flying into the transmission. And there's a couple of clips and components to that, so we had to get an exploded diagram and look at every single piece that's in there to ensure there wasn't anything missing. And I guess now we have to go ahead and replace it. Luckily we've got a replacement that we had from before, so we'll be going ahead and doing the whole process again, rebleeding, and just basically, I guess next time we'll go ahead and do a test drive. So in the meantime, if you want to go ahead and listen to that beautiful sound again of that thing grenading itself, here it is. Whoa. See you guys next time.